Welcome back to another episode of the Four Insight Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Obi. Solo edition this week. This week, I'll go into the lessons I've learned in being a podcaster. I've been doing this for about 6 months, and it's been a great learning opportunity and a great experience for me. And I'm just sharing the lessons that I've learned. Starting off the list, is the first thing, and this is probably the biggest one, and it was really avoidable, was just investing in the equipment. I mean, it's as simple as that. I started off podcasting. I just used my laptop and, I just used what was available to me at the time. But, if you go back to my first episodes, I mean, it was really, the sound quality was poor, a lot of static in the background. So if anything, I would say to any podcaster out there, really just invest in, it doesn't even have to be the most expensive things. I went on Amazon. Really, they have some good options there, high quality options, and they don't cost you too much. You don't have to spend an arm and a leg on, your camera or your microphone, but just get something that's well reviewed. Has a lot of, you know, people who gave their feedback on it, and try to get something that's in your ballpark. As far as if you're going to do a video podcast, I would definitely recommend that you get something at least that's 1080p. If you can get the 4K, and if it's not too, out of your realm of expensive, I'd get the 4K just because the better quality, the easier you are to see to your audience, and that just makes your podcast more viewable. It makes people more likely to stay tuned in. I mean, you look at some of the top podcasts out there, they have the best equipment because, it keeps listeners and watchers engaged. So if there's anything I've learned is that really take that time to look into and invest in your equipment. Number two on the list is really do your homework. And this is something I think I took seriously, luckily, because I did my research before I got into this space. I mean, a lot of podcasting is, I would say, just to kind of get the ball rolling. You don't want to spend too much of your time, doing research, because then you never get started. I mean, if I had it my way, and if I hadn't had a friend to kind of push me and put the battery in my back, I probably would have never gotten started, because there's always something that you really feel like you could have looked into more. But I would just say that if you're going to do an episode, if you're interviewing a guest, you definitely want to make sure that you kind of have a layout, or, have a timeline of what you want to do with every episode. For me, every guest that I interview, I always make sure at least a few days, if not a week beforehand, I send them an outline of what we're going to talk about. I make sure to have a lot of transparency with every guest that I bring on here. Make sure that I don't talk about things that they don't want to talk about or that they're uncomfortable with before we begin recording. I also make sure to ask them, hey, is there anything you don't want to talk about? Is there anything I should stay away from? Is there anything that they want to talk about? Because this is all about learning. I think podcasting is really about, being able to engage and understand the person that you are, getting to know. Even if it's somebody who you're friends with, you really don't know everything you think you do until you actually hear their story. And that's the one thing I think I found really enjoyable with this experience. Even my siblings or my close friends, just hearing them speak and learning from them has been really rewarding. And it's been probably my biggest growing experience since I've been out of college. So that's second on the list. Just do your homework, create an outline. That'll help you kind of stay on track with every episode, and that'll help you kind of navigate it much easier rather than having to stop, digress, or having to recollect your thoughts, and then you're stopping, you're pausing, or you guys get off track. Okay. The third thing I would say definitely is to be authentic and honestly be a little vulnerable, because, the one thing, if you listen to all the podcasts that are out there, every person decides to put their own swing on things. And I think that's the key thing. You don't want to spend too much energy or even waste too much of your time trying to make things perfect, because the fact of the matter is that it's not. You're going to make mistakes, and mistakes are honestly okay. I mean, if you were to really look at my first episode till now, I mean, in the beginning, it was a lot of digressing, a lot of rambling on, a lot of stopping, starting, but that's just people are putting their thoughts and putting their emotions and trying to really think of things that they're really believing and thinking, but they're trying to articulate them in the right ways. And so I would just say that, it's okay to make mistakes. Just be yourself, though, when you're doing these types of things. Don't overthink, have fun with it. And it's okay to kind of express your thoughts. It's a conversation. If you're having an interview podcast, or if you're just a person trying to give knowledge, these are your real thoughts. This is your real emotions. This is what you're really thinking. So you shouldn't have to try to self edit when you're trying to, record or create the content. Because in the end, you can go back and look at it and you can see your growth. The way that I thought when I first began this podcast to today is a complete 180. There's so much that I've been able to learn and grow from just in these few weeks and few months doing this that I would have never thought of when I first started. The next thing on the list is consistency is key, especially I think this is big for people who don't really have the biggest of followings, but even for people who have a relatively good following on either social media or just in general life is, when you become a podcaster and if you follow a place or a platform like Anchor, you have your analytics there. You're able to watch your listeners. You're able to watch your audience grow or stay stagnant. And I think the main thing, this is going to be consistent with any research form you look into. They always tell you to be consistent days of the week. Don't post on Monday one week and then post on Thursday the next week, because then your listeners aren't really getting engaged for when to anticipate you dropping your episodes, right? Also, don't give up, because I think one thing is when people don't see instant success with the content that they're creating, it's very easy for people to give up on themselves. You have to understand that with podcasting, it's a marathon and you're taking the stairs. You're not taking the elevator. You're not taking the escalator. This isn't going to be easy for most people. And most of the people who decide to quit is because they don't see the short-term success that they're wanting. You have to be realistic. If you don't have the biggest following out there, you're not going to have the largest audience in the beginning. The whole point is to work at it and to build it, right? This is why, like for me, you have to understand that when you're looking at analytics, it's all about ebbs and flows. There have been days where I may not get listeners for 2 days, and then all of a sudden I see a spike of about 20 to 40 listeners. So keep posting content, keep improving on everything that you're doing, right? Look back, listen to your old episodes. What are the things that you did like? What are the things that you didn't like? And really engage your audience to see what they want to hear from you. Because in the end, they're the ones listening to your content. They're the ones, tuning into your show. They're the ones supporting you. So you want to make sure that you're giving them the content that they're wanting, coupled with the stuff that you're wanting to put out. If you're posting stuff that you're not really passionate about, you're not going to have that same enthusiasm and that same energy when you decide to post it, or when you decide to record it. You're just going to be like, okay, I'm just going to ramble on about this, and you're not going to sustain an audience that way. Okay. The next thing is having the energy to record. So what I was alluding to also, there have been times where I've tried to be a hero and record multiple days in a row, multiple episodes in a row, thinking, well, if I knock out 2 episodes in 1 week or 3 episodes in 1 week, then that's just less time I have to do it the next week. One thing I'll say with that is make sure that you're not overwhelming yourself, because, there have been times where I'll record one day and then the next day I'm tired, and then I don't have that same energy the next episode. So really make sure that you're not trying to overexert yourself when you're recording episodes. You want to be able to bring the same consistent energy with every episode you record, because if you don't bring that enthusiasm, people are going to notice it, and you're not going to keep people engaged. Having a podcast, creating a podcast really is about being able to hold someone's attention for the time that they're giving you, because they can easily tune out. I mean, with all the distraction we have in the world, even with coronavirus, and maybe people are quarantined, people, if they're not interested, if they're not engaged in what you're putting out there, they're not going to want to listen. They're going to try to find something else. So really make sure that you're spacing your episodes out in a timely manner, and make sure that you're bringing that same energy, the same consistency in every day, in every episode that you record. Next on the list, I would say just, remember that practice makes perfect. You're not going to really be the best at it in the beginning because you're nervous. It's natural with anything that you're new at. Your first episodes, you might mess up. You might say, you might agree, you might digress, you might ramble. I would just say stick with it. All right. Learn from every episode. Go back and listen to them. Make sure that you're improving on your faults, on your mistakes. And, just remember that this is a marathon. You shouldn't judge yourself harshly, right? It's all about getting better with every day, with every episode. Okay. Next thing I would say is become a sponge. What I mean by that is really engage with other podcasters and other people who've been doing it for a little bit longer. That's one thing I really decided to get into was, getting into different, groups, podcasting groups, seeing what people have done or did not do, seeing what people did or refrained from, right? And if I felt like I was weak in a certain area, I would try to ask people, because I mean, podcasting is a growing space and it's about people coming together and really pulling their brains together. This is why I love doing this. You really get a gauge for people's creative minds, and the more minds, the better the content because everybody's trying to build each other up. Podcasting really to me is not something where it's as cutthroat as say like business. I mean, obviously people want to create the best content that they can, but really true podcasters have to have an open mind. And most of them that I've come in contact with are very willing and very able to help you if you decide to reach out to them. That's another thing. Closed mouths don't get fed in this space. So if you have a question, don't be afraid to ask anybody, right? If you don't ask, you won't ever improve. Next on the list, I would say embrace and enjoy the grind. This is fun. This is a hobby that you chose to embark on. You chose to do it. And so I would just say that, with everything, just have fun recording, have fun creating the outlines, have fun talking to your guests. You have their undivided attention for the time that they're giving you. So have fun, enjoy it. Make sure that, you're asking questions that you want to ask your follow-ups, and really enjoy the process of creating content that people are going to listen to and enjoy, and really believe in what you're putting out there. Believe in your skills, your abilities. Don't second guess yourself, because if you second guess yourself when you're creating the content, you're going to stutter, and that's what creates the hiccups. That's what creates the lapses. That's what creates the things that make people not believe in their content, and then they don't have the confidence to keep on going and sustain you. Lastly, just with the Thanksgiving and everything, coming up, I really appreciate everybody who continues to tune in, listen to the content that I'm creating. I appreciate you guys. You guys motivate me to be better at this. And, I've been doing this for about 6 months now. Like I've said in many episodes, I would have never thought that I'd have been a podcaster and I'd have been creating content. But, this has been really enjoyable, being able to really expand and see what my creativity can do for me. Being able to put episodes together, be able to reach out to guests, really let my guard down from the standpoint of being able to speak my mind. I think that really helps people's self-confidence. And I employ anybody who, is thinking about getting into podcasting, definitely get into it. It's great. It's fun. It's interactive, and, you can do with your platform whatever you choose. I think that's the best thing about it. I've seen all different types of podcasters, different types of names, different types of material. I've listened to hundreds and hundreds of different podcasts out there. I mean, it's really a space that I'd implore anybody who's thinking of, expanding on their creativity to get into. Everybody has a voice. Everybody should use their voice. So with that being said, that'll wrap up this edition of For Insight. Once again, I'm your host, Mike Obi. Thank y'all for tuning in. You can catch me on Anchor, Spotify, YouTube, all other platforms streaming podcasts. Thank you.